Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Today I'm joined with April Crossley. April, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Awesome. So April is a fellow full-time RVer, actually from Berks County, like I am. And we've been friends on Facebook for I don't know how long, and I don't even know if she friended me or if I friended her, but we kind of connected a little bit more when she posted on Facebook if anybody in her kind of network would be willing to sell everything and jump in an RV and travel across the country. And at that point, Sandy and I had already started that process. So I chimed in and said, yeah, as a matter of fact, we're doing it. And then we've kind of stayed in touch via Facebook from there. And I reached out to her and said, hey, let's do a podcast. I think it'd be cool for two Berks Countyans to, who threw away the lifestyle that society says we should be living to chase the weather, I guess. So April, just, give us some background, tell us about yourself. I know you're into real estate. You can expand on that. And, just give my listeners a little bit of a background of who April Crossley is.
Sure. So there's a lot. How far back do you want me to go? I actually used to work in healthcare. That was my career for like 13 years. And I started doing real estate on the side. So just renovating houses and buying rental properties and doing like private money lending. And then after I've probably been doing that for about 12 years. So I left healthcare 8 years ago. I forget, we're in 2021. So 8 years ago, I left healthcare and just started doing real estate full time. And I kind of went from a job in healthcare to a job in real estate, not realizing it. I was like, I want to work for myself. I'll have so much more freedom. And after years and years of working in real estate full time, I was like, I am miserable. I have no freedom and I'm going to quit this and go back to having a job. But I've always had like this restlessness. I like to travel. I like to go out and meet people. I like to do different things. So I, was just complaining one day or crying one day to a good friend of mine that's in real estate about how I want to quit because I have no freedom. And she referred me to someone that was part of a mastermind group that taught me how to kind of get out of my job and oversee my business. So my husband and I have a son who's 26. I had my son when I was 16, so I grew up very fast and went right into healthcare because I had to get a job to support my son. Don't get me wrong, I loved healthcare, but there was no option for me to figure things out and create my own business. It was like, okay, you have a son now, go to college, get a good job so that you can live on your own and support your son. So that's how I ended up in healthcare. So fast forward, and now I work for myself. My son moved out and bought his own house in Lancaster, probably last May, I want to say. And that's when my husband and I were kind of like, okay, what are we doing? Like, we were snowbirding in our RV for 3 years. We would just come out to Arizona during the winter months because, as you know, Berks County can be brutal in the winter. So we were just leaving for 3 months. And when my son left and bought his own house, he's our only son. And we were like, we could go do this full time and just work from the road. So it took us a while to process that and clean out the house. We were living in a house in West Lawn for, I don't know how long, maybe 6 years, but going through that whole process of just cleaning things out and downsizing. And then in October of 2020, we hit the road and decided to just RV full time, sold our house in Berks County. And some people think we're crazy and some people are super excited for us. So, because it just depends how adventurous your mindset is,
Yeah, it's funny because we get the same thing where some people look at us like, you did what? And then others are like, man, I just want to do that. You've inspired me to do something that I've been wanting to do for years. So it is funny how you get that, mixed reaction from people. So it sounds like it was a little bit of a mutual decision between you and your husband to do this.
Yeah. My husband, I would describe him as very adventurous. Um, so it was definitely something that we both were like, why stay stuck in this house when we could just go and explore all these different areas? Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so what are some of the challenges, because you're still running your business on the road? So what are some of the
Yeah.
challenges that you've faced while managing the business from abroad?
Yeah. I think when we first started RVing, we were doing it for 3 months at a time. So that really helped prepare me, just being a snowbird first, because I would have to leave my business for 3 months. The first time I left my business for 3 months, it was very painful. It was very painful. Constant phone calls, constant people for me to get systems in place and people in place. So I wasn't necessarily the go-to person. So I had to find a really good business partner. I had to find a good bookkeeper. I was just working on my own, just me and my husband before, with not a lot of systems or other people in our business. So I had to be willing to, I guess, sacrifice some of my profit to gain some of my freedom. So I had to be willing to give up some profit in my business to work with other people, which the people I work with are amazing, and I want nothing but for them to succeed and grow as well. So it actually turned into a huge blessing. Like, I love seeing them grow. Like, my business partner has 2 daughters, and she was able to leave her job and she can take her daughters to school. And it's just so cool for me to say, like, I'm a part of that, and seeing her grow and flourish in her relationship with her daughters because of it. So it was very painful in the beginning. And I think there's still challenges every day in every business. Like, I lost my project manager, and I lost another team member just 2 weeks ago. So replacing those positions from the road and doing everything virtual has its challenges. It can be done. It's just a little more challenging, a little bit more of a learning curve.
Yeah. And obviously, as we this is actually our second attempt at this podcast, because last week I ran into some internet issues, and you said that it was kind of a little bit of a relief for you to see someone else's pain of of having to
Yeah.
deal with that, because a lot of people don't understand that when you're living this lifestyle, internet is not guaranteed for us.
Yeah. And since like COVID and everything happened, there's tons of Zoom meetings and everyone's used to being more remote. But when you're living the RV life, it's nice to say, oh yeah, I have a little hotspot Wi-Fi booster. But if the wind's blowing too hard, or you're down in a canyon area or something, it does not matter. Your Wi-Fi is not working. So there's times where people be like, can we do a Zoom call at this time? And I'm like, sure. And then they're upset. I'm trying to get on and trying to get on. I'm like, my Zoom's just not working today. I don't know how to explain it other than that. So it definitely comes with its challenges, and I just hope that people are understanding of that. I do the best I can. There's times where I've gotten in the pickup truck and I've just driven out of town like 20 minutes to a half hour to try and get Wi-Fi, and then I'm sitting in my truck on a Zoom meeting and people are like, are you in your car? Do you live in your car? So yeah, it's not without its challenges for sure.
Yeah, that's but it keeps it interesting for us as well, without a doubt.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so what are some of the things you enjoy most about the full-time RV lifestyle?
I would have to say just being inspired. We see inspired and free. So inspired because we see a lot of beautiful things and we're in a lot of beautiful environments where I'm the type of personality, it's hard for me to rest, and it's hard to rest my mind. I'm constantly wanting to do this and do that and grow, and I have business ideas. And when I'm out hiking or seeing something beautiful, that's kind of like what someone would consider meditating. That's what I feel like when I'm out there. So it really brings me peace and clarity and helps me be more creative and thoughtful about things. And I really like, people always ask, what's it like living in a smaller space, and how could you just put all your stuff in storage or get rid of all your stuff? And it's very freeing to me to not have a lot of things. And the best way to describe that is, like, for instance, we went to Zion National Park the other day, and we went to the gift shop afterwards at one of these like little gift shop places they have. And I said to my husband, the best part about living in an RV is it's nice to look, but we're not going to buy anything because we don't have anywhere to put, we don't have anywhere to put it. Like, it's not like my fridge is magnetic. I can't stick magnets on there. Like, you have no little stuff. And I just feel like stuff really clutters your mind, and you tend to think that your life tends to become about your things. Like, people get very attached to the house they live in. They get very attached to their belongings. And that's not what life is about. That's not what I want to be focused on or attached to. I don't want to care if, like, you know, my carpet gets stained in my house or this happens or that happens. Like, it's just very freeing to have a much smaller space with very little things and very little need to buy things. You're about life experiences.
Yeah, I can relate to that so much, because when Sandy and I were going through the clean out process, we lived in our house for 20 years, and it was a big house. It was over 3,000 square feet, and we had been, you know, empty nesters for years. And I remember one time she came up from the basement and she just looked at me and she's like, how did we get so much crap?
Yeah.
And it is. And as you're going through the stuff and you're getting rid of it, you're just like, why did I still have this? What was this for? And again, to create that, you know, experience, you know, and to live these experiences, you know, in the fall, we went up through New England, and it was just so incredibly beautiful. And, you know, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything in the world.
Yeah.
You know, that we've done. Like, we were in Old Orchard Beach for a while, and our campsite was less than a mile from the beach, you know, so we walked down, you know, took the dog down with us and walked down to the beach, and, you know, just saw the sunrise and stuff like that. It was, you know, again, those are the things you can never get back, and you're just building that experience. So I can relate to what you're saying, you know, so much. And, you know, I just wish, you know, there's times, and, you know, I wish we'd have done this 10 years ago, but by the same token, I guess that's kind of, you know, unfortunately, that's just the way life is, that it takes us, you know, getting beat up and, you know, banging our head against the wall until we really figure out what's important to us, you know?
Yeah. And it's amazing, like, what some people feel like, I could never do that. I could never live in a smaller space. And I met my niece out, and we're in Utah. So I drove to Las Vegas and met my niece in Las Vegas and stayed in Las Vegas for 2 nights. And Dan, I had my husband on FaceTime on my phone, because I walked into my hotel room in Las Vegas and I was like, my hotel room is huge, huge. And it probably isn't huge to most people, but I live in an RV. I spend most of my time outside. And so to me, even if we come back to Berks County and buy a house, or when we buy a house again, it's amazing, like, what space you don't need, you think you need, but when you downsize and simplify, even something as simple as hotel rooms seems gigantic to me. And when we used to snowbird, we'd go away for 3 months and we'd come back to our house, and I would say, why do we live in such a big house? What do we need this big house for? And when you look at, just as Americans, like, we're so spoiled rotten and we have so many things. And I feel like that comes from, like, just being aware and educating yourself about other countries and what they don't have. But when people live in these huge, gigantic houses, they're like, oh, I couldn't live without 2 living rooms and a deck and this and that. You're like, you actually could. Like, if you left it for 2 or 3 months and you came back, you'd realize how ridiculously huge your house is and how you do not need that space. Just my feeling.
No, and I agree with you. And I think the other beauty of what we do is, I mean, yeah, we're in a small space, but like you said, you're out in Utah right now. You can walk out your door and you've got a vast amount of beauty that you can partake of. And I think that's the difference that people don't necessarily realize. It's like, we're not sitting in the RV 24/7. Like, we're experiencing life, you know?
Right. And people shouldn't be sitting in their houses either 24/7. Yeah, because you have no idea how much life it brings you and how it inspires you and just makes you see things differently. And I feel like when you're in your house and you're so comfortable in your house and you're just sitting in your house, and that's kind of why we chase the weather too, because we want to be able to be outside. So people picture me sitting in like this little tiny RV, and I'm like, no, that's the point, is to be outdoors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is what the point of your life should be too. Get some vitamin D and get off the phone and get outside. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love that. So I want to talk a little bit about, you touched on it a little bit in your intro, but um, you and I have another thing in common apart from being full-time RVers, that we're both found ourselves as parents at the age of 16. So, um, and it turned out okay. So talk a little, you just posted on Facebook about it. It was just your son's 26th birthday, I think.
Yeah.
So, just talk a little bit about, becoming a mom at 16.
Very difficult. I was very naive. You think, you're suddenly faced with a decision of, you need to jump in and just do this. And I feel like I was very naive about it at the time when I was pregnant. And then I feel like when my son was born, it hits you like a ton of bricks, because it's such an emotional moment that you're like, I will never love anything more in my life than I love this kid right here, right now. Like the second he was born was the second I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure this kid has a really good life. So I obviously had to finish high school because I was in my junior year. So I had to go back for my senior year. So I would wake up in the morning, drive him to daycare, drive to high school, drive back to daycare and pick him up, drive back home, do schoolwork, getting ready and applying for colleges, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I was on like food stamps. So I've experienced moments where I'm like sitting in the welfare office and how you're treated by other people, like judging you from that perspective without knowing you. Like I was a smart kid and I knew I was going to be successful, but because of being how young you are, you're constantly under the microscope of other people making judgments about you. So it's extremely difficult, like from being judged in the welfare office to, I would take my son to the doctor and they would say things like, do you even know how to take a temperature? Like snarky things like that. You build up a lot of resilience, and kind of life became very lonely just because it had to become lonely. Like I wasn't in a point where I could have friends and socialize. There was no time for that. It was go to school, take care of my son, get a good job, and work. That was what I could do. And that's okay. I don't have regrets about that. I feel like that made me who I am today. Like I'm okay with putting my head down, charging forward in my business, and being lonely, because being a business owner, or even sometimes just living the RV life, like there's times where things are lonely, and that's okay. I'm not saying I don't need any friends and no one needs friends, but you know as well as I do, like when you're at that time in your life and you have a child so young, you just really have to like push forward. You don't have time to really be paying attention to other things other than what you need to get done to provide for your child. That's pretty much it. So during that time in my life, there was just a lot of kind of like negativity around me personally and what I would accomplish. And, people just telling me like, now look what you've done. Your son's going to be a teenage dad. You're going to be on welfare. And instead of choosing to believe what they were telling me, I had to just block it all out and believe in myself, like choose to believe in myself. So, when my son was like 13, 14, 15, I'm having brutally honest conversations with him about what my life was like when I had him so young. Like, don't go down this same road. Like, I don't want you to be like me. That's what I used to tell him. I would flat out just say that. Don't be like me. I don't want you to be like me, because I didn't want him to have a hard life. I didn't want him to sleep 4 hours a night and that's it, because he had to work and take care of a child and everything else. So I really was just brutally honest with him because I wanted him to have a better life than what position I put myself in when I was 16. Yeah.
But you ended up doing okay.
Yeah, he's a good egg. I did okay and he did okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, did it give you, you talked about being resilient and, definitely something I can relate to as well. But what was the difference because obviously, hearing the negativity and having people judge you and stuff like that, it hurts,
Yeah.
and it can harden you as well. So what was it that you did personally to kind of not let it harden you, but almost use it as to like, look, say what you want to say, but I'm going to prove you wrong?
Yeah. I feel like it definitely hardened me, and a lot of people say you shouldn't work from that I'm going to prove you wrong space. Like, I don't really see anything negative about that. I just kind of like have traipsed through my whole life like, I'm going to prove you wrong. So I think it definitely hardened me, but it also put me in a place where I can, like, so I went from 16 and pregnant to retiring at the age of 35. And when I retired at the age of 35 from healthcare, everybody told me I would fail. So when I was 16 and pregnant, they told me I would be on welfare forever. When I was 35 and retired, they told me I'd be back in 6 months, crawling back from my job. So my whole life, people just keep telling me this. So I've learned that there are always going to be those people that are saying that stuff about you. And you just have to surround yourself with people that believe in you. And it's really helped me be able to stand on the outside looking in. So now when I see like young mothers or people struggling on welfare or people in need, it's not from a place of judgment. It's from a place of, you have no idea what that person's story is, how smart they are, what they've been through or what they're going through. So instead of saying something negative to them, like, speak belief into them, like put something positive in their mind to help them want to keep pushing on and going forward. So it's really, as much as it's hardened me, has helped me help a lot more people, because I've been in their shoes. And it doesn't matter if they were a young mother or a young father, or they just come from a place of poverty and they're struggling. It doesn't matter what their situation. It's just helped me know that anybody, no matter where they're coming from, can do whatever they want if someone believes in them and helps them believe in themselves.
That is so true. I mean, so true. And I love that it's kind of like they say, you can turn your test into your testimony. And, I love that. I love the fact, that you've been able to, use what a lot of people would say would be again, something that happened that, quote unquote, should have made you a welfare mom for the rest of your life. And you turned it around and said, no, that's not going to be my story,
Yeah.
So that is so cool to be able to do that. And obviously, again, from a personal experience, very, very relatable as well.
Yeah.
Another thing that you had just put out there on social media was talking about a type of transformation that you've gone through over the past 2 years. You want to talk a little bit more about, what took place there?
Sure. So I think, like 2 years ago, I joined a mastermind group that I didn't know what it was going to do for my life. I just went to a conference and felt like it was a real estate conference. And a friend of mine started a mastermind group, and I just felt like this force saying to me, you need to join this mastermind group. And it's really people that invest in real estate and grow wealth, but it's not just about that. It's about really giving back and helping other people, and becoming the best version of yourself. So when I grew up with very much a negative mindset about money and wealth. I wasn't taught that having money is good and growing wealth is good. I was just taught kind of like you should hate people with money because they're evil. And so learning about real estate and surrounding myself with people who think differently, I've learned that you can't make any change in the world with a poverty mindset or being poor. The best way you can change the world is with a positive wealth growing mindset and making money so that you can give money to help others. So the gentlemen in this group that I joined, like, build orphanages for people. Like, they do all kinds of like amazing things all over the world, and are really about giving back while helping to teach people to grow wealth at the same time, because the more people that grow wealth, the more lives we can change. But in order to grow wealth, you have to change from the inside out. So you have to become a more positive person. You have to be connected with God in a deeper way. There's just a lot of like personal changes that have to happen. And when you personally become a better person every day, then professionally you will become better in your business and you will make more money. So this group isn't just about professionally becoming better. It helps transform you personally so that you can professionally be better. So just overall, it's helped to change my mindset and help change me as a person, I feel like.
Yeah, that's so important because I saw something somewhere where they say you can't fill from an empty cup.
Yes.
So again, it's just changing that mindset and understanding that in order to help others, you got to help yourself first, and put yourself into a position to be able to help yourself. So I love that. And again, the more we've kind of gotten to know each other since scheduling this podcast, the more I see that we have in common, because again, I kind of went through that same type of, transformative thinking over the past 2 years as well. Cause, for 30 years, I ran a nonprofit organization, and, when we first made the decision to do this, I loved what I was doing. I loved every second of what I was doing. So it had nothing to do with being unhappy at my job or anything like that. It's just that I felt that God had more out there for us, and there was more for us to do. And so it is funny how everything, when you take a step back and you look to reflect upon things, you do know that everything really does happen for a reason. So it's very cool. So is there anything that we missed talking about to tell your story before we get on to our final question here?
I don't think so. I could talk to you all day.
Yeah. Well, hopefully sometime we'll actually connect on the road.
Yes. Yeah. When you come out west, we'll be out west for a while. So you let me know where you go, because we'll be out here for a while.
All right. I definitely will. And we are looking forward to it. Like I said, we've been kind of, we had to get back to Pennsylvania because a friend of ours had passed away. And we decided once we got here in the middle of March, beginning of March, actually, again, certainly didn't fit the idea of us chasing good weather, because we ended up back in Pennsylvania on like March 8th. But at that point, we're just like, look, get to spend some time with the kids. Let's stay here for Easter until Mother's Day, and then let's head back down and get the stuff done that we got to get done. But, so we've kind of been on this little back and forth thing from Pennsylvania to Florida, with taking a couple detours into Louisiana and Texas here and there. So we're both really kind of chomping at the bit to get out there on the West Coast a little bit. So we'll take that trip across the northern U.S. into Washington State, and then down, California, across into Utah. We're going to spend the bulk of the winter this year in Texas, at a place called the Dream Center, which is a faith-based drug and alcohol center, drug and alcohol rehabilitation.
Cool.
We were there last year for about a week before we went in and helped do some hurricane cleanup in Louisiana. So we got to know the husband and wife that run the facility, and we absolutely love them and want to go out and help them a little bit more. So definitely we'll try to get our paths to cross at some point here, and would love to see a little bit and just compare stories for sure. So
yeah.
So as you know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from a song by Michael Franti, the opening lyrics of his song Gloria, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things and the whole world changes. And it's funny because by the time I get to this question in the podcast, it's like you guys have always already answered it, but to kind of, put it into one nugget, what is the one thing that April Crossley is doing to make the world a better place?
Yeah. So I am really super passionate about just getting people to a better place in their life, like showing them how to manage their money and grow wealth so that they can, lots of people have kind of reached their hand down and helped to educate me and bring me up to a point where I'm able to help other people. So in every little thing that I do, I try to tie it into helping other people. So like I created a real estate investment group in Berks County. And when we pre-COVID were having in-person meetings, you can easily charge people $10 to attend the meeting. And to me, I was like, why would I do that? Like, God's given me this gift to be able to educate other people. So I'm going to use that to help these people give back to other people. So the cost of admission was to bring one non-perishable food item that we donate to the Greater Berks Food Bank. And then when I do speaking engagements, the group of guys that I've been speaking with lately are super passionate about like building orphanages in India. I'm doing a speaking engagement at the end of May. And what we do is we auction off like consultations. So they'll auction off like a free hour consultation with me about growing wealth, and people will bid on it, and that money gets donated. The one at the end of May is going to a human sex trafficking organization that helps to battle that. The one last year, we raised enough money to build 2 orphanages in India, which was super awesome. So we just try to really educate people about how to grow wealth so they're able to give back. And while we're doing that, we're trying to bring people in and find a way to give back during that process to raise money for something. It's all about changing people's lives and just bringing them to a more positive place, even if it's not about money, just a more positive place so that they can have a positive impact on somebody else and lift that person up. Because it's just like you said, like when you're in that place and you feel fulfilled and centered, you're able to help other people who help other people, and the world just changes just by being kind and wanting to help other people.
Yep, absolutely. It's that ripple effect. It's that ripple effect. You throw that stone into the pond and it just goes, on forever. So that is so awesome. So if any of my listeners want to reach out and get advice from you regarding, whether it's real estate investment, whether it's, the growth mindset, how can they get in touch with you? Is there a website? How can they track down April?
Yeah, so we have a group on Facebook called RVREI, and I have a website, RVREI.com. And I'm on Instagram, it's April Crossley, and they can always email me. It's april@lazygirlrei.com is my email address.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast with me. It's been great, and it's been great, really getting to know you better than just, like I said, I don't even know how we became friends on Facebook,
Me either, but it's awesome.
But again, like you said, it's funny how, God ends up aligning us with the people who need to be in our lives.
Yes.
So I really do appreciate it, and hope you continue to enjoy your time out there in Utah. And we definitely look forward to tracking you guys down on the road.
Likewise. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
No problem. And folks out there listening, be sure to check out my other blogs and podcasts at danclouser.com. April, thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.